introduce Reema Rasool, who's the founder and executive director of Say We. She's the brain behind this entire operation, and this is Say We's first event in LA, so thank you all for attending, and Reema, take it from here.
Hello ladies, thank you so much for coming out. I really, really appreciate it. I just wanted to give a little bit of background on Say We. I literally, about 3.5 years ago, we started in New York, and it started because I was starting my own company, and I had a great idea, but I had no idea what to do after that. And so I started taking these informational interviews with these amazing women, and I said to myself, we should have a resource set for people like me, people like you who, are interested in business and, have this entrepreneurial spirit, to just have a resource that's there. Or, at this point now, we've expanded, we have our offices in Manhattan, we do mentorship programs. And I just want to say thank you so much to Wells Fargo. This is the first time we've done, this entire initiative is the first time we've ventured out of Manhattan. And it would not have been possible without this, this collaboration. And with that, I want to thank, these amazing ladies for being a part of this. We have some really global powerhouse women entrepreneurs in this panel. And I'm so proud to be sitting here with you ladies, and I'm so thankful. All of them have this amazing mentorship, give back kind of spirit that's really lovely. And so what I'm actually just gonna ask everyone to do is just introduce themselves, talk about their, what they do with their companies. And I'll start with Anjula, who is the chairman and CEO, founder of Desi.
Hi everyone, well thank you for coming out to see us all. We're going to save your voice, by the way. I run a company called Desi Hits. Desi Hits was really born out of a dream that me and my husband had, which was to kind of bring South Asian culture to the mainstream in America and then take a lot of pop culture back to India. So we've worked with everyone from Gaga to Britney Spears to Enrique to, kind of all of the household pop names that you guys probably have heard of. And we've kind of really built a business around taking that pop culture to India. We're now sort of doing the exchange on the other side. I just signed Priyanka Chopra, who most of you probably know from her Bollywood career, and we're launching her. And the dream really is to make her kind of the next kind of J-Lo or next Shakira type of thing. And that really stems from a dream that I had when I was a really young girl, where I was exposed to a lot of racism. I grew up in a really tough environment, and I always thought that pop culture was responsible for people's attitudes towards me. And I always thought as a young girl that if, there was kind of, at that time, the big stars were people like, I don't know, Tina Turner or Michael Jackson. I always thought if there was a brown Tina Turner or an Indian Michael Jackson, maybe people would sort of look at me differently and they wouldn't sort of look at me and think I was smelly and dirty and all these things that they thought I was. So from a young girl, I had this dream to kind of change that. I never thought that, I'm not going to tell you my age, but 10 years later, maybe a bit more, that I would actually be doing that and living my dream and making a difference in the world from how people view our culture and us. So anyway, so I run a company called Desi Hits. We have a record label that runs through Universal Music Group. I'm just now launching a management company which is managing a number of artists, including Priyanka. I also manage people like Lady Gaga and Britney from an India perspective and help their management navigate that market. And what else can I tell you about me? That's about it really. And I also manage I also mentor a lot of startups, and I invest and really just help a lot of young entrepreneurs kind of raise funding or things like that. Fast. Over to you, Shalini.
Hi, I'm Shalini Vadhera, and I'm the girl that's been obsessed with beauty since I was 8 years old and tries to mimic the Singapore Airlines flight attendant who traveling my entire life. I never thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. I knew I loved glamour and all of that, but when I was 19, my father literally handed me a plane ticket to India, and he said, go start your own business. I don't want you to ever work for anyone. And I cried. I'm like, Dad, I don't want to go to India. Please don't send me to India. Like, can I just stay here in San Diego? But I went, and you know, I didn't really know where to start, but my uncles used to manufacture all the knitwear for Givenchy. So I ended up starting in the whole clothing business and started working with a lot of the surf companies out of San Diego, golf companies, and bringing in clothing for them. And you know, I was 19, what did I know? You know, I just knew it was really difficult as an Indian girl to have anyone take you seriously in India. So I decided that I didn't want to do that because secretly I still wanted to make lipsticks over here. And so I parlayed into jewelry, and I started manufacturing sterling silver jewelry with semi-precious stones, and was able to get a jewelry line into Macy's and in Nordstrom. And at that point I was going to college and getting a degree in international business. And the one thing that I noticed is no matter where I traveled in the world, it really used to drive me nuts that there was no colors in makeup that would match our skin tone. And even in India, I'd go there and my cousins would be like, hey, let's go buy some makeup. And they'd look peach or burnt. And I'm like, this is not, you know, this is your country and you're still not getting matched. This is crazy. So I was getting a degree, and I got a call one day from somebody that said, hey, we heard about your stuff. And I was a makeup artist at the time, and I didn't really know what my stuff was, but they asked me to come up here to NBC Studios and show them my work. So I drove up here not knowing anything, and they asked me to do a TV makeup. And, you know, I'm a firm believer in fake it to make it. So I faked it to make it, and I was like, this is what you do, and da-da-da-da. And now looking back, that was like probably the worst TV makeup. I would die if someone did that on me. But they thought it was really fresh, and so within literally 2 weeks, I was offered a job on The Tonight Show to work with Jay Leno. And I decided, okay, this is what I want to do. I don't want to work in foreign trade. I want to follow my passion in beauty. And from there, it just kind of it was like the universe just pushed me forward, and I started doing a lot of TV segments. And the question I kept getting was, you know, there's a million celebrity makeup artists out there. What makes you so different? And Anj and I talk about this all the time. I mean, it was difficult growing up in another culture as an Indian girl. I mean, I had a lot of pushback, not from necessarily the community that I was in, but more from my parents of like, you know, you can't be them, you've got to be this. So I really struggled with like who I was. You know, I was having like an identity crisis my entire life. And so while I was doing all these TV shows, I was doing a CBS early show in New York, and they said, Shalini, we're flying you first class, we're putting you up in an amazing suite, we're paying you to be here, but literally we can hire anyone off the street to do these segments that you're doing, so why should we continue to bring you in? And I was like, well, that's a really good question. And I was like, oh, well, let me tell you. Let me think about it first, but let me tell you, I'm going to go back to faking it to making it. And I said, well, look, first of all, there's no mainstream media that ever targets all the skin tones in between white and black. I mean, nobody's talking to all these women. America's the greatest melting pot. You know, what about everyone in between? We have all these beauty challenges. We're educated women, and no one's addressing those and giving us solutions. And two, we always want to know why Indian women have this traffic-stopping shiny hair, and why Chinese women never seem to age, and why Brazilians have these hot bodies, and it's not necessarily genetics, it's all these great beauty secrets. And once I embraced my culture and embraced literally the world, it was like the world opened up to me, and that became my really distinct voice and launched me in an amazing career in beauty. I went on to write a best-selling book called Passport to Beauty. I spent 2 years traveling around the world and getting the best beauty secrets from every country. And then I started working with Rasool and Kamorli Simmons' manager, who told me, Shalini, you're not gonna make any money on your book, you've got to start a makeup line. And I went on to look at the competitive landscape and realized there was 47 celebrity makeup artists on the market, and how was I gonna be different from that? So literally at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, but of course, I'm gonna use all these global beauty secrets. And I went into a lab and sat at a table, and we had about 9 people around the table, and I'm like, I want to do a coconut, amla, henna, neem, grapeseed oil, avocado, hair oil. And they were all looking at me like I was from Mars. And there was a Pakistani guy in the back, and he's like, oh, no, I know exactly what you're going to do. This is our secret. So we ended up starting to work together, and at that point in my career, I had been literally everyone's spokesperson, from Revlon to Olay. My makeup agent's here, Brooke. They booked me as a Lola spokesperson on QVC. So QVC knew I could sell, and once they got wind that I was creating a brand, they called me up and they said, hey, we want to know what you're doing. We want you to launch on QVC. And I said, no, I don't want to launch on QVC, it's not good for the brand. And they said, we don't care, we'll see you in New York in 2 weeks. So literally, I had nothing to show them except a napkin that I pushed over, and I'm like, okay, here are my secrets. And they're like, okay, great, you're going to launch in February with this coconut hair oil that you're doing because it's your grandmother's secret. So I was like, okay, I wasn't planning on that, but that's fine. So I start going into production in that, and the next thing I know, I get a call from Sephora saying, we heard you're creating a brand, we want you to exclusively launch with us. And then from there, it just went into, we became the #1 selling mascara at Victoria's Secret. I was chosen out of 800 brands to be the woman minority brand that Macy's was putting in their diversity program. I did an enormous amount of fundraising, took the brand all the way to pretty much a great story for all of you entrepreneurs who have to know what can go bad with funding. I lost my company to a really bad investor, so I'll be happy to talk about that later. And then from there, being a serial entrepreneur, went on to create a production and media company with my husband, where we have a number of shows in contract, one with NBC based on South Asian women, which is very exciting, and a few others. We also advise a lot of tech firms. And I'm in the process of writing my next book, which is titled Power of Beauty, Kick-Ass on the inside, gorgeous on the outside. And I'm working on my next brand, Passport to Beauty, which is going to really, really celebrate a lot of inner and outer beauty secrets from around the world, and it's gorgeous. I can't wait to launch it. So that's who I am.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Reema and Anjula and Shalini. I love your stories, as you all know. And on that note, that's what I do. I tell stories. And so a little bit about my background. I started off kind of about 10 years ago with a dream. I was in film school. And as a film school project, we had to figure out what we were going to do with our lives. And I always thought that, you know, if you create art, it seems fluffy unless it has meaning. So there has to be meaning behind it, otherwise where's the passion going to come from? Otherwise, how are you going to connect to it? How are people going to connect to it? So I kept on jotting down and writing down and writing down, and then I discovered that there was a need. There was a need in our community for inspirational content. That everything in the South Asian community was, one, coming out of India, two, it was either Bollywood and escapist, or it had negative news. Like this girl got raped, or this happened, or that happened. But there was nothing that inspired our community, where we could learn from other people's stories, where we could grow and we could motivate one another, give a platform to rising stars. So I set off on that mission 10 years ago, and I wrote this all down while I was in film school, and I said, I'm going to do this. Needless to say, when you're in film school, you think it's easy, but this industry is not easy. So once I graduated, I went off, worked on other people's projects, and did this thing. And finally, I embarked on, let me make my dream come true. So I created a pilot, and I just thought, let me call up these networks, and someone will take it. There's nothing like it. It's that easy, right? It wasn't. And I had zero connections in the industry, knew nobody. And this is an industry where you have to know people. And so I set my heart on getting this show on Sony. I said, they're a good brand. I want to associate with them. I don't want to associate with any other brand, and that's it. I'm going to do it. And so how did I do it? First, I called up the receptionist, and I said, hey, you know what? I have this great pilot. You guys should meet me. And she was like, whatever, you know. And so then I called her again. I'm like, you didn't respond to my email. I sent you my pilot. And she was like, somebody will get back to you. And then, so that went on for about 2 months. And after that, I found out the name of the person that was the decision maker through someone else, and through someone else. I literally stalked him for 6 months. And I said I would call him up, find out his schedule, when is he coming in town, what event is he going to be at, where is he going to be, called again. Once he answered his phone, and I was like, hi, this is Sarika. And he actually knew who I was, because I called him. He was like, oh yes, Sarika, yeah. He was like, can I call you back? And I was like, yes, absolutely. Of course he did. And so then I'm like, what am I going to do? So I found out he was, and I'll just disclose it now. I found out that he was going to be, 6 months later, that he was going to be at the Vijay Amritraj Gala here in LA. So I was like, how am I going to get into this? You know, how am I going to get to see him there? So I called to buy a ticket. It was sold out. And one of my friends who knows Vijay Amritraj said, you know, Sarika, she has this great show in Silicon Valley. I had no show. Can she cover your event? And so I went there with a camera and a fake mic, and then I put on the cover to this guy from Sony in the title. I said, "Vijay, I'm with Raj Gala." He had to open it. He was a sponsor at the event. So we opened it, and I was like, "Hi, this is Sarika." I'm like, "I'm going to be at this gala covering the event. Can we have a meeting?" He's probably like, "What show? How are you covering this?" But whatever. And so I got a call the night before the gala from his secretary, and said, "So-and-so would like to set up a meeting with you at this time, blah, blah, blah." I almost fell off my chair. And I freaked out. So I had this whole presentation, got my team together, got my pilot together, and we got a contract on the spot. And we were the first show from the US to create inspirational content that aired around the world in 150 countries. So I was like, that's it. This is it. My dream came true. But little did I know about the journey after that I was going to embark on. I mean, the past 4 years to get this show off the road, I just have to say you have to have a real passion for what you do. I mean, getting people to watch your show, believe in it, getting guests on, getting good guests on, getting people to create it, raising your sponsorship money, your marketing money. I mean, I always say if you want to be an artist, you have to learn how to be a very good entrepreneur. And so today now we're season 5, and we're about to launch season 5. We have 20 million viewers, 150 countries. We just got syndication on a different network in India. And I'm also working on a second series all about innovation. So that's 5 years later. We have amazing guests on our show that tell inspirational stories like these ladies. They've all been on the show. And we love sharing
I've
those
been
stories.
on every season.
Yes.
That's true.
So, I mean, basically, that's my story. So, I think I'll pass the mic on. Thank you.
Oh, there's another mic there, actually.
All right. So first of all, I gotta say, yeah, you three ladies and Reema, you are amazing, and I'm already inspired, and I've only been up here for 10 minutes. So my story is a little bit different. My name is Sandy Walia. I'm actually the district manager for Wells Fargo Bank, and I manage 11 branches in the greater Los Angeles region. So I manage just about 300 team members every day. So my story is different, and then I started with the bank about 16 years ago, and I think like every typical Indian, it was, you're going to be a doctor. And I said, okay. So I worked at Wells Fargo through college. I ended up getting my degree in biology and chemistry. And I looked at my parents and I said, you know what? I am going to be a doctor, but I think I'm going to be a financial doctor. So I made my choice to stay with the bank versus go on with what my parents really wanted me to do. So now, 16 years later, I manage the largest area in all of, basically all of Southern California. I get to manage. I help countless number of customers, business customers, consumer customers, make their dreams come true, which is what Wells Fargo did for me and gave me a life that I probably wouldn't have today if it wasn't for them. And I love what I do because I get to turn around and do that for all types of customers. And that's what I empower all 300 of my team members to do every day. So that's my story. Not as extravagant as theirs, but I get to help people let them make their dreams come true.
Okay, well, this is easy. I do this all the time. Okay, Anjula, since we're on a panel here with young entrepreneurs, that are looking to pursue their dreams and learn from everyone, and this is a financial panel, what advice do you have for entrepreneurs that are first starting off? How do they budget their money? Because at that time you're in bootstrap mode, and how do you get to a level where you can finally become financially comfortable and achieve success?
It's a really broad question. Let me break that down. So, well, for first-time entrepreneurs, I have one major piece of advice for all of you, which is network your asses off. Because network your asses off and tell everyone about your dream and be relentless about it. And I'll tell you why, and I'll give you a story which relates to money. I founded my company with my husband. It was kind of by mistake, and he basically ran into this idea that sort of started getting some traction. But at that time, I was working in executive search with a number of venture capitalists. And I was literally having drinks one night because I network my ass off and I just do it because it's in my blood. And I was telling one of the VCs, I was like, oh my God, Rand came up with this idea, it's so cool, we did this podcast, it went viral, it's a smash up of music from everyone from like 50 Cent to Jay Sean, we're #1 on the iTunes chart, I never understood how that happened. And he just looked at me, and this is like, you know, a top tier investor from the Valley. And he looked at me and he goes, "You're so passionate about this." Like, but it's brilliant, isn't it? Like, isn't it amazing? Like, and honestly, I had no inclination, because I had no business model, I had no plan that I was going to build a business to do this. And literally after those drinks, and I had a business meeting with him about something else. The next day, I'm not lying to you, he called me up and he said, "I want to invest in you and your company." And I said, "I don't have a company." I said, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, "That idea that you talked to me about last night." He was like, "It sounds amazing. Can you send me this and can you send me that?" And you know, now I'm much smarter and I know that he was doing his due diligence on me, but he wanted to see the iTunes reports and he wanted to see this and he wanted to see that. And honestly, I got a term sheet for $1 million. And, you know, it's one of those crazy stories. It really, really is. But, you know, it's not. And I'll tell you why it's not a crazy story. It's not a crazy story because I went out and I spoke to everyone and I spoke to everyone about this idea and it was getting traction and that is real. And the bottom line is, at that time, it was a wave when everybody was looking at South Asian media properties and everyone was seeing India was expanding incredibly so, and there was this youth demographic that was growing. There was very little that was supporting this kind of cross-cultural content wave that was happening, and hence I got money. So, and I then went on to raise another 5 million, and then I actually raised a strategic round from some of the biggest people in Hollywood that you would know, and that really sort of believed in my dreams, and have then since funded my project with Priyanka and my projects with Gaga and all the things that I've done. So my advice to you as early entrepreneurs is network your arse off, talk to everyone. You never know who you might talk to tomorrow. You never know how they might be inspired by your dream and want to fund you. And make that your mission, because you just don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Shalini, I've had the pleasure of interviewing this inspirational woman several
season.
Yes, every season. What I love about you is your story of persistence, because I think every entrepreneur has to have that mindset where this is my goal and I'm not going to give up until I get it. And you may have to shift from here to there, but this is it. And you have a fantastic story. I think you should share that one.
Which one?
Oh, well, the one where you went, okay, well, kept going back and kept, you know.
Your
and,
persistence.
My
yes,
persistence?
yes.
Well, I didn't realize how relentless I was until my husband told me that I'm relentless the other day. I guess. I think you told me I was like Teflon or something. I don't know. I'm a firm believer. I always go back to I'm a Punjabi girl, so like I'm gonna fight no matter what. But I'm a firm believer that if you have a goal and you're passionate about it, there's so many people that told me, "Shalini, you'll never be able to launch a beauty brand. Like, who do you think you are, this little girl from San Diego, to go and like share shelf space in Sephora with like every major brand that's like a multi-billion-dollar company? Like, you can't do that." And it's like, yes, I can. I never, ever, ever listen to the word no. And I never, ever, ever think that if I fail, I'm not going to be okay. I mean, there's always this invisible safety net. And I think as an entrepreneur, if you believe strongly in something, you go after it and you go after it fearlessly. And to Anja's, her words of wisdom that she was talking about, you network like crazy. I mean, I want to say the best advice I got when I was starting this whole, I'm going to be a brand. I was working on Hollywood Squares, and Henry Winkler, the Fonz, was the executive producer and the nicest man I've ever met in Hollywood. And Tom Bergeron, who hosts Dancing with the Stars, was the host. And I was telling them, I'm like, I'm going to be a brand. And Henry's like, you know what? You are going to be a brand, and you're going to tell every single person you meet in the entire world about your brand. And those words of advice never left me. I mean, to this day, I am 24/7 a walking billboard for what I do. I mean, there's not one conversation I have with anyone that I don't bring up what I'm working on. I mean, we just had a whole strategic conversation back there on this whole, new company I'm setting up. But it's inside of, it becomes part of you. And, and to what Sarika was saying, I'm unbelievably persistent. I mean, when I was starting as a makeup artist, the bad thing about me is I'm never satisfied. The good thing about me is I'm never satisfied. So once I got on the Tonight Show, that wasn't enough for me. I was like, all right, I want all the studios in LA. So I would literally drive 2.5 hours up from San Diego. I would park in front of CBS Studios, and I would call them up, and I'd be like, hi, I'm my name's Shalini Vadhera, and I would really love to do makeup for you, blah, 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 blah. And they'd be like, yeah, sorry, we're fine, we've got a full slate, we don't need you, click. And I would be like, okay, and I would drive 2.5 hours back down. And I this went on for probably about 6 months, and I finally was so frustrated, I told the lady, I'm like, look, I've been driving up here for 6 months, sitting outside, I'm on Fairfax and Beverly right now, and if you just give me 5 minutes of your time, I will show you, you know, that you absolutely have to hire me. So she said, do you have your makeup kit with you? And I said, yeah, I do. So she's like, okay, fine, go to the gate, I'm gonna let you in. So I went to the gate, I went in, I walk in the makeup room, and I'll never forget this day because my mom was a big Bold and Beautiful like fan, and like even when we went to India, that was like her soap that we watched there like that. And I walked in the makeup room, and the entire Bold and Beautiful cast was sitting there, and then the entire Young and the Restless cast was sitting over here, and I'm like, okay, this is for real. I better not fuck up. You know, this is I gotta do this. So she was the head of hair and makeup for the entire studio, and she goes, okay, honey, go set up over there. I want to see that you know how to set up your station. And I want you to take all my makeup off, and you're going to do my makeup right now. And I was like, okay. And I mean, there's moments in time where you feel so scared. You're like, whoa, what did I just get myself into? Like, I know I wanted this, but now I'm actually here, so I have to do it. And you just have to have just this unbelievable belief in yourself and in your product and in your brand, and just know that it's going to be amazing. And so I did her makeup, and I was booked on The Bold and Beautiful literally 2 days later. And then that got me into all the Survivor stuff, and that got me into Dancing with the Stars, and that got me into working with everybody, and that's how I met Brooke. I don't even remember how we met, and then Brooke got me every spokesperson job under the sun, and you know, and you just have to just go for it, and just do it, and literally be so laser focused that no one can distract you and like dissuade you and make you feel like, you know, insecure about your goal. Just don't listen to that, just do it.
But what about, like, for example, like there are times like when I, you know, actually how Say We came about. I started a line of, you know, my background is Kashmiri. So I've been in love with shawls and pashminas and, you know, embroidery since I was very young. You know, my mother and my grandmother and my great-grandmother. And, you know, I had this vision, and I said, I'm going to start this company, and we're going to just do Lux, these amazing pashminas, not, you know, knowing that, like, literally 3 months down the road, they're going to be like every random person selling pashminas for $10 in the street, right? In your
pajamas, no,
seriously. And I was like, you know, I'm going to be in stores, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And then slowly, the business really turned into private order, Tribeca Moms Club. You know, like I would have a customer who would want, like, you know, very custom $25,000 shawl, and then I'd have a customer who had no idea, wanted it, didn't know what it was, became more of like an education. This is how you store them. This is what it is. This is what the embroidery is. And so when do you kind of know that, okay, you know, this was my vision, but maybe it's not going to go there. Maybe it's going to take this turn.
I firmly believe that it's okay to pivot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you might start with a vision. I mean, to give you a great example, when I was going to launch my beauty brand, I was going to do skincare. I just come back from traveling the world for 2 years and finding all these amazing secrets, like, you know, chopped garlic and clear nail polish for harder than acrylic nails, and like mashing up grapes and mixing it with flour for like gorgeous looking skin. I didn't think I was going to put out a makeup line. I mean, it was very daunting. If you looked at the makeup brands out there, they have 300 products to a brand. And I was self-funding. In the beginning, I had no way to put 300 products out. But when I met with Sephora, one just side piece of advice is whatever you're doing, make sure that you're really able to celebrate your point of difference and be able to tell a story around it. Like my whole point of difference was that I was a mid-skin tone. So I knew the stores wanted that demographic desperately to come in and spend their money in their stores. But I, at that point, was still gonna do skincare and eventually do makeup. And when I went to meet with Sephora, they said, we absolutely love you. You're a celebrity makeup artist. You're not doing skincare. Do you see Dr. Pat Wexler? Do you see, you know, this doctor, that doctor? This is the year of the doctors, so no skincare from you. You are going to create a makeup line for us. And we're going to launch exclusively in our stores as this mid-skin tone brand. And I was like, okay. So I had to pivot immediately. I went back, flew back to New York, got in with my canvas, and was like, literally spent the next 4 months swiping every skin tone I could find on Manhattan to create colors that matched all skin tones. But that wasn't my original plan. So, and sometimes it's a blessing in disguise.
Absolutely.
You know.
Just on the note of pivot, I just want to say something for people here that are kind of more sort of on the tech side and kind of more from the Silicon Valley world. which is what I'm from. And you know, when you're doing content businesses, or you're doing any kind of, you know, tech business really, the key thing that took me 3 years to learn, and I wish some VC or someone on my board or someone had told me this, and maybe they did and maybe I just didn't understand it, was follow the money. So for a lot of businesses like ours from, you know, Silicon Valley world, you don't have a business model straight away. You're figuring it out. Like people will tell you, oh, if you have shitloads of traffic, you're fine. Well, you're not. Because when the market dips and people don't want to fund you anymore, or they don't believe in your vision, you lose your funding straight away. So I would say to everyone here that's sort of looking more at that kind of business is literally figure out what your business model is like really early on. There are these Instagrams and the YouTubes and the business models, the startups that don't have business models are really 1 in a billion. Like, don't think that you're going to be that lucky. Yes, you might, and I believe in magic and all of those things, but the truth is they're really, really hard. So find your business model and then figure out how that's going to scale. So, for example, if you're selling banner ads or sponsorships, and this year you've sold 2 sponsorships, how next year you're going to sell 200 sponsorships? And how the year after that you're going to sell 500 sponsorships? And if you can't see that your business can scale like that, then you need to pivot. And I learned this the really hard way, because I was one of those tech entrepreneurs that were like, I just need to build numbers and traffic, and then the whole monetization, which my VCs, by the way, told me would figure itself out. It never figured itself out. So then I had to, like, you know, 3 years into my business, really change my business model, and that was really, really hard. And at that point, I was running out of funding. So, and then I had to go back and show traction to VCs and say, okay, well, I've now pivoted my business model because this wasn't making money, and they kind of look at you like, yeah, really? Okay. So anyway, that would be my advice.
Yeah, I have something to add to pivoting. I'm sure you do as well, because it's actually an important part of entrepreneurship. And in fact, a true entrepreneur knows when to pivot and when not to, and it will happen, because you'll end up pivoting your business. Like one of my guests told me once that an entrepreneur actually is an entrepreneur because they want to win at business. It doesn't mean that they're going to win at their original idea, but they're in the winning of building a company and creation. And so, like Anjula just said, you have to follow the money. And I have some great advisors on my team, and they were looking at Andaaz, and they said perhaps it isn't big enough. And so you're sitting in Silicon Valley, Sarika. You talk to innovators all the time. You can go behind the scenes at NASA. You end up at the space station. You have all of these connections. There's money that you're sitting on and you're not recognizing, because there is no show around the world that is on innovation. And if there is, they come into Silicon Valley, they try to get a few interviews, but they can't get them because they don't know who to talk to, whereas you're every day in Singularity University, you're talking to NASA, that's where your money is. So we're going to create a show on innovation that's going to go mainstream, and they're helping me with that. But it's exactly what you just said, and that wasn't my original vision. My original vision was our South Asian community, we need inspirational content, that I'm continuing to doing. But I'm currently pivoting because you have to scale. You have to sustain yourself, and it's just so true, what you ladies are saying.
And cash is king.
Yeah.
So just a couple things to add. When I was listening to a couple of you talk about the pivoting and having a plan, Wells Fargo, one of the things that we do really well is we provide resources, we provide tools. And we actually have a website that we have. It's called www.wellsfargobusinessinsights.com. And this website has everything that you need to know, no matter what stage your business is in, whether it's a startup, growth, maturity, retirement stage, whatever it is. We've got something to help you, whether it's, you know, you want to start from the beginning and figure out how to build your business plan. It gives you steps on how to do that. So that's the first thing, is that Wells Fargo does a lot of investing in resources for, you know, people that are thinking about business or that already have a business. The second thing I'll say is it's really important. I heard cash is king, and it is. But it's also even more important that you establish a relationship with a bank and a banker that understands you, understands your vision, understands your model, and knows where you want to go, because they're going to be there to help you do that. And even if, you know, we all had times of uncertainty with the economy changing, going down, going up, but if you've got someone behind you that can help you rebound from that, we're definitely looking to lend. We're looking to provide capital for people that want to rebuild, want to even grow their business. That's what we're here for. But we've got to establish a relationship to get to know you. So just a couple resources that Wells Fargo has.
Yeah, and to go to your words of establishing relationships with a banker, I used to go and have Splenda margaritas with my banker. Because it was so important to have that relationship, because anything I ever needed when it came to banking or it came to having an equity line or a credit line, I mean, I knew I could go to him, we could go have like our margaritas, and I could talk to him about what's going on with my business, and I had 110% support of my bankers at all times. I mean, they were amazing.
Yeah, and one of the things that we're really proud of is that we take that extra step to really understand what's important to our customers. And I don't know if you guys have seen the new advertising, but it's all about starting a conversation because it'll go somewhere. It really is about starting that conversation. Even if you don't feel like your vision is something yet, starting that conversation helps you get to where you want to go. And you need a bank to help you get there, and the people that work in the bank are there to help you do that.
You know, I, for myself, you know, while I was, you know, trying to start my thing, I was consulting and trying to make money and keeping my costs down. And I'd like, you know, Sarika, I know that you know, wear so many hats. You are literally, you're producing, and you're, you know, the business woman behind it, the finance behind it, and the host. And can you maybe speak a little to, you know, the sponsorships and how I don't think, like, it's grueling. And it's really difficult, and this is how you fund your show. And maybe speak a little to the kind of tenacity that you have to have behind kind of going in and doing that.
Well, it was just on what we were saying. So Andaaz is currently run off of sponsorships, and it's my passion project. The only reason it goes is because I'm extremely passionate about the cause behind it. It's almost like how someone would be passionate about their nonprofit, and because they believe in where that money is going, so they keep on fundraising and getting money. That's how I feel about the mission behind Andaaz. So if you're going into something where it's off of sponsorship and raising money, you have to be very passionate. Because when you're talking to someone, you have to enroll them in your vision, or they're not going to see why they have to give you money for it. So you have to have it has to be life-changing. You have to want to create a huge impact in the world. You have to want to touch lives of millions and millions and millions of people. So if your vision isn't that big, you're going to have trouble raising money for it, because a percentage of people are going to get enrolled in your vision. And you have to have the mindset and the tenacity. And then eventually, once you establish yourself, you're going to have to figure out a model to have a sustainable business, just like you said, which is where I'm pivoting now. But it's all about a positive mindset and having a very big vision, very big. Like, I'm going to change the lives of 1 billion people in this world, or my company is going to affect this many people in this world. Then only can you go out there and start talking to people passionately about asking for money, because you have to enroll them in what you're doing. I mean, that's the best advice I can have. I speak all the time. I cannot speak today. Like, what's going on?
And Shalini, while you were introducing yourself, you were talking about a big challenge that you went through, where you actually lost your company to a bad investor. And I would wonder if maybe you expand on that a bit right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Who knew I was going to have such a rite of passage as an entrepreneur? When I launched my first brand, I self-funded it for $400,000, and then I met a couple angels. Again, going to speaking passionately and networking your booty off. I mean, I literally was introduced. I was sitting on a flight to New York in business class, and I was sitting next to a woman who did not acknowledge my presence the entire flight until landing, when she was putting on a lotion. And I was like, oh, that smells really good. Let me show you my coconut oil. And she ended up being the chief investment officer of Deutsche Bank. And so I pitched my entire business to her. She was like, oh, I love it. It's fabulous. Here's my card. Call this person, and they'll introduce you to so-and-so. And they set up a meeting with a gentleman who was partners with Carlos Slim, who I had breakfast with, and literally 15 minutes into breakfast, he pulled out his checkbook and wrote me a check for $150,000 at the table for 1% of my company. And from there, I did the traditional roadshow. For me, I found I'm really, really extremely happy and proud that this is happening here tonight, because I never met women in the funding world. It was always a boys' game, a boys' club. It was a very interesting one-year roadshow. But I did finally signed a deal with NBC for a show based on my book, and I was telling one of my champions there, I'm like, I'm just having the hardest time raising money. These guys want me to fly on their jets. They want me to play ping pong in my gym shoes with them. I mean, it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever been through, you know. And he said, oh, I have this guy, and he'll help you. And I'm like, all right. So I ended up meeting this guy, and who was an attorney, and I went and I was able to raise $6 million for 7% of my company. So at that point, we were at about a $24 million valuation on the brand. And, you know, I did all my due diligence that anyone would do without hiring like a private detective or private investigator. I asked around, I called other clients, and he checked out great. So I raised the $6 million. They brought in a very, very expensive management team, and I was like, wow, we're burning through cash pretty fast. I like to run my companies very lean and mean because, you know, you don't know when you're going to run out of cash, so you need to not burn through it really fast every month, and that includes high salaries. And I raised the money in February. I was supposed to get another $2 million in June and another $2 million in October. So here comes June, and there's no $2 million. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? I got like $500,000 in salaries over here on these people you're making me, and we're not going to hit a brick wall. And they had literally tied my face and my name to all the money. That was my personal guarantee that came in the 11th and a half hour, which I was told as chairman could be, you know, changed in a board meeting. So I ended up firing the entire management team because I had to bring my burn down. We were going to face a major cash crisis. And I started digging, and I actually ended up having to hire a private investigator. And it was found out that there are funds out there that unfortunately you can raise $6 million, you get the first tranche, and then they start to financially strangle the company. It's called like loan to own. So they come in, they wipe out the assets, and then they take everything. So that was unfortunately the investor that I had. So within 8 months, they were like, we're taking your company, we own you, there's nothing you can do about it. And I was able to find another fund that was going to put another $8 million in to take these guys out, and they blocked it. And at the end of the day, it turned into a horrendous 2-year battle, and I was able to get what I needed back, which was my name, my face, my media work, my books, and all my IP. And it was tough. It was the battle of my life, but it was the absolute best learning experience of my professional life ever, ever, ever. I'm so grateful for it. Like, I ended up being my master teacher. I will never tell him that, but he taught me everything. So,
if you had to do it all over again with the investor, how would you do it?
well, I would definitely work with a lot more people that I had a longer relationship with, that I was able to check out from multiple sources. I mean, at this point in my career, I have such amazing relationships going back to networking. I don't call it necessarily networking. I call it relationship marketing, because it's really important. It's not just handing someone your business card, it's handing someone your business card and then developing a relationship and a friendship with them. So now I have such a strong, amazing support network that I know I can go to any of them and either raise money from them personally, because they are such, either they're billionaires themselves or they invest in a number of companies, or I can do like a double, triple, quadruple check on certain people because we're all running in the same circles. But if you were to ask me, would I do that again? Absolutely, because I'm so much smarter and stronger now. I mean, I could litigate a whole case if I needed to. I don't want to, but I'm just saying if I needed to. So yeah, so you have to be very careful. I mean, you've got to just do as much due diligence as you can, and you just have to be smarter than the average bear. I mean, you've got to check yourself again, check everyone else around you, and try to find as much, background on those people as you can, just to know who you're going to be working with. And also, it's okay to date. I mean, you don't need to get into a deal right away and get married. I mean, it's okay to say, hey, you know what, I want to get to know you a little bit more. Let's do a smaller raise at first and see how it works out. So don't come from a position of, oh my God, I need all this money. I mean, the way it was pitched to me was, I really only needed to raise $1 million. I didn't need to raise $6 million, but it was pitched to me that they're going to give you all $6 million, so you can just go and just concentrate on your business, and you'll never have to worry about fundraising. Because ever since I've met Ange, all she's ever doing is fundraising. I mean, literally, it's consistent in your business. I mean, you have to find cash at all times because you never know when you're going to have a rainy day. So, there's ways that you can structure deals that you're not so liable for what could happen. But it was an interesting experience. It was a good one.
I just want to jump in from the fundraising thing. I want to say a couple of things. I almost feel like there's so much information I want to give you all about fundraising, because between me and Charles, we've been through it all, right? I mean, we really have. But I can't give all that information. But what I can tell you is that if you are fundraising and if you decide to go and fundraise, please talk to somebody that has fundraised before and gone through the whole experience, because there are so many pitfalls. It's just, and the terms and the term sheets and the way deals are structured are just so, it's so crucial that you won't I promise you, the first time you do it, you won't understand it, because I don't think Charlotte and I did. We were like, oh, we raised money at this valuation. Wow, like $6 million. Like, oh, I'm so smart. And seriously, you'll be patting yourself on the back all the way to the bank. But very honestly, like, that money comes with a lot of terms. I want to give you a really quick story about my fundraising. I actually raised money from some pretty, tier 1 VCs straight off, because as I told you, I got these term sheets and people were literally throwing money at me. It was kind of a crazy situation. And again, you would look at that and think, wow, how lucky is she? Yeah, I was pretty lucky, but the other side to it is that I tied up my company and I did a bunch of things that weren't very healthy for the company very early on. And then later I raised a strategic round from somebody that's become a huge mentor to me, a guy called Jimmy Iovine, who is, you've probably seen him on Idol, huge in the music industry. But when I first met Jimmy, I mean, it was a funny story. I had just closed a round of $5 million. And I went to see him, and it was actually a fund that had done some due diligence on me that asked me to go and meet him. And then the meeting got delayed, so I ended up meeting him much later. So I'd raised money by that point. But Jimmy came in and we had this amazing meeting, and I was really cocky with him. And by the way, raising money is like dating. When you don't need money, money will knock your door down. And when you need money, no one will come. And people used to say to me, do you want money or advice? And I would always say, and I encourage you all to say this, is you want advice, because then people will give you money. And if you say, I want money, they'll go, oh, I can give you a ton of advice. And you're like, shit, that's the last thing I do. So when I say raising money is like dating, it's like everybody wants a hot girl that every other guy wants. Well, it's the same thing with fundraising. Every investor wants the hot deal that every other investor wants. So when you're meeting people, you're never fundraising. Like, Sean knows I already am fundraising. But what you're actually doing is being like, oh, I'm just kind of seeing what's going on. Like, I've got this great idea, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I met Jimmy. And I told him that iTunes had bit the music industry up the arse, and sorry, excuse my French, that's so crude. And I was just kind of really cocky, and I was sort of telling him what I think about the music industry, and he turned around to me and he said, I want to invest in you. He was like, if it's not this company, it's the next company, blah, 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 but I want to invest in you. And I said the magic words to a guy like him who can have anything. I said, you can't, because I've just raised $5 million and I don't need your money. And back in my head, I was thinking, but I do want your money, because you're I'm really sharp. And I was smart enough to figure out that even though I knew my VCs wouldn't want his money because they wouldn't want the dilution, that strategically he could really, really help me. But anyway, I told him he couldn't, which made him want it more. He flew to New York to meet with me, had breakfast with him and Jay-Z of all people, because he wanted to impress me, because he wanted to invest in my company. And literally I turned around to him and I said, okay, here's my deal. I want, close in 7 days, no due diligence. That's my deal. If you want to invest, these are the terms. You can. If you don't, I'm walking away. And he did. So he literally shoved a check in my hand because I wasn't looking. So anyway, I just want to drill the point home to you guys, which is that, people want what they can't have. And if you can give them what they can't have, they'll want to work with you. So that's my best fundraising advice.
Yeah, I have something to add in on that as well. Another piece of advice that I have on fundraising, I did a little bit of it in season 1, and I'm in the process again for my innovation series, which right now I'm in a different position.
But you're not really fundraising.
No, not fundraising. And actually, it's so true, because I'm in a different position where VCs have now come to me and said, we want you to create this. Then one VC is now hearing from another VC that she's doing this, and they're saying, oh, well, we want in too. So I'm actually in that same position where when you're not looking, it comes. So the learning lesson from that is if you can fake it to make it in your beginning days and not feel desperate, you will have a greater chance of raising money. The other big thing I learned is in season 1 of my show, I was looking for angel investors to kind of come in and help me out with this. And the big learning lesson that I learned was until that you've signed a document and everything is in place, your deal isn't done. people will say, yes, it's almost done, only this needs to be signed, or that needs to be signed, and here are your terms, we want this percentage of the company, we want that, we want this, we want that. And be careful about how much of your company you give away. Because when you're brand new, somebody will come to you and say, hey, especially when you're in your angel round or in your beginning phases, because a little bit of money when you're a starting entrepreneur feels like a lot. It's not really a lot. So you end up giving away a lot of your company for a very little amount, and you'll regret it down the road. So think about, in 10 years, what is it going to be worth? If somebody's giving you $500,000 and you're first starting off, that's a very small amount in the entrepreneurial world. And you'll learn that along your journey. You're like, I gave a third of my company away for $500,000, and now it's worth millions. That's one piece of advice. Second is that I fell into a position, like every entrepreneur does, and you will too, and so all we can do is share our stories with you so that you don't. Where before the contract was finalized, it was all verbal, and it was 100%, we probably knows this. And money was coming in the bank, it was my angel round. I started spending it, and I planned. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have all this money. And so I started a production, and I started doing everything. And then all of a sudden, I got a term of, if you get a CEO from Harvard on board because you're more creative, then only will we give you this money. And it was like a few days before the check was supposed to come. So I found my CEO from Harvard, I did all of that. Then my CEO from Harvard said, okay, you're getting this money because of me, knowing I've already spent most of it. Because I went into production, my deadline was due for Sony, I just figured it's a done deal, you know? My CEO of Harvard said to me, well, since the money's coming because of me, I want to be the main host, and I'm 50% president and CEO. And I didn't know what to do because I'd already spent most of it. The money was coming the next day because of me. I think you know the story. Yeah. I turned it down. And I sat up for all night for 48 hours raising sponsorship and recovered most of that money. And I almost had a heart attack. So that's what I mean by, because my show was, Sony was already saying show is launching, show is launching, show is launching. I had to pay for it. Like I had no choice. So my advice to everyone is, until that paper is signed, until it's 100%, you don't know what term is going to pop up at the end where you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot do that. I'm not going to give my life away for this. So.
Yeah, and to that point, I'm sorry, really quick, is when you raise money, I mean, like outside of a bank, when you raise money, it's really no longer your company. I mean, now all of a sudden, you have an obligation to these people, and you have a board, and it can be a very contentious board, and it can make your life absolutely miserable, or you can really try to figure out ways to support your business and build your business by creating models that make it self-sufficient, or working with a bank where you hold on to the majority of your company and you're able to run it the way you want to. Because the minute you take someone else's money, whether or not in the governance issues they have any right to tell you how to run your business, they're going to tell you how to run your business. And it becomes a very interesting situation.
Yeah.
I just have one quick, as you guys ladies were talking about, cash comes to you when you don't expect it, or when you don't want it, or when you don't need it. One of the biggest pieces of advice I can give anyone that's looking to start a business is, as you establish your business, is also to establish credit. And while you think, I don't need it right now, when you do need it, you may not be able to get it. So it's so critical that you start your business and you start it with credit. When you think about your personal life, you do everything with credit, right? You're going to go buy furniture, you're going to use a credit card. You're going to buy a house, you're going to get a loan. It's very, very similar to your business, and it's so critical. And just like we all started with a little credit card at 18 to build your credit to get where you want it to go, it is the exact same for business. So even though you think you don't need it now, you think you don't want it now, you do need it now, because when you do need it later, you may not be able to get it. So that's my one piece of advice, is it's extremely critical to take advantage of it when the opportunity is there.
I agree. In fact, I'll just give you a piece of advice. Wherever you open your bank account, the first thing you should do is go and introduce yourself to that bank manager, the branch manager, and become friends with them. Because if you're up against a payroll issue, or you build clients and they haven't sent their payments in, and now you've got to pay your employees, you can always go to your bank, and if you had established credit and you've got a great relationship with that branch manager, I mean, it's amazing what they'll do for you.
I actually,
Angela, now that you're at this level where, you've done so much and now you invest in young entrepreneurs, and I wonder if you can just speak about that a little bit and what you look for as an investor. What do you look for? Like, what is the one thing that when you say yes, I want to invest in your company?
People used to say this to me, and I know they've said this to you, and people say to me, I invest in people. I think I do too. I think when you meet an entrepreneur that is just super passionate with clarity, I think that's it. When they have an idea and they're passionate about it and they have clarity, and I can see the obvious scale. And when I can see them, and scale is the most important thing to me, because I went into my business not knowing how I was going to scale. I looked at my business and I believed my own hype. I'm being really honest. Like, my own hype was, oh my God, 1/5 of the world's population is South Asian. Yes, they are, but they're not all on the internet. There wasn't broadband penetration in India. There wasn't all these things that I wish a really smart investment had said to me. So what is the penetration in India for broadband right now? Because all of your content is broadband. Like, what is, I didn't have anyone asking me those kinds of questions. So for me, I think I just, when I meet an entrepreneur with a great idea, they've got to be passionate, there's got to be a market, I've got to be able to see really obvious scale, and they've got to be able to demonstrate that to me, and then I can kick the tires a bit and go, yeah, that's a great idea. And I only invest in tech businesses because I understand that, and I only invest in businesses where I know I could go. I just closed an investment for a company called The Hunt, and I got a whole suite of A-list investors to invest at the same time. I only invest in deals, or will look at deals, invest my time, in deals that I know I can get other people to come on board with too. For example, and I have a great network. So, for example, if I was looking at a deal in the beauty business, I would call Charlotte straight away. Not that I do, but let's just say I was doing a tech business, a deal in the beauty business, like Birchbox or something like that, which, by the way, I'm looking at something like that. But I would just, call up Charlotte and say, what do you think of this? And she would give, she would just pull it to pieces for me. So, yeah, something like that.
I actually have dealt with so many, we do a lot of mentorship, and so many young entrepreneurs that were based in New York will come and they'll be like, I want to tell you about my idea, but can you sign an NDA? And that's the first, and I stop and I'm like, seriously? No, I cannot. A, no. B, you're never going to make any money going around asking. Yeah. I always feel, what do you ladies think about this? I always say, I'm like, you really need to talk to anybody who will listen. Shal just said she was on a plane with this woman, and all of a sudden, this led to that, and that led to this. What do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, sorry. Well, I actually was going to say what Ange said about 1,000 people have your idea. She said 1 billion. Okay, it's 1 billion. 1 billion people have your idea. It's execution, it's your flair and how you're going to do it. And on a more softer note to that, I feel like holding your idea inside is meaning you're not trusting the world. And when you have that frame of mind and you're going into entrepreneurship, you're setting yourself up for failure from the onset. Because to be an entrepreneur, you have to be very open, very trusting. Because the people you build and the network you build and the mentors that you grab onto, I can't even stress this more than anything else, is hold on to mentors and people that are going to guide you. And don't ask for money out of them. Keep them for advice and tell them everything, and never think that because they're rich or they have all this money and they have all these connections, they're going to take your idea and run. They're not going to. So you cannot go into entrepreneurship with that feeling of not being able to trust the world. It won't work. Every time I do this, I drop something.
I want to disagree with Sarika. I went into the world trusting. You do actually have to have blind faith that, the people that you're pitching your business to are there in good faith.
Yeah.
However, I am definitely a much different businesswoman as I was a few years ago.
Right.
So I do protect myself, and I do have people sign NDAs, but I have the people that sign NDAs that are going to look at every single detail of my business, which is proprietary information. And I work in a very ruthless business. I mean, when I used to go on QVC, my competition would come into the green room and literally break my products if I went to the bathroom because they wanted me to go on air with broken products. So I'd always have to keep 2 or 3 steps hidden. So, you do have to vigilantly protect yourself and be your own police, but you can do it in a way that strikes a really nice balance to where you're still promoting yourself, you're promoting your business, but you're not giving away all your great ideas that, somebody might be inspired by and taking it,
Yeah, that's true also. 2 ways of looking at it.
2 ways.
I'm the jaded one.
I'm dated too, but I feel like,
I think, on a final note, I just, we're all sitting here, South Asian culture, and, I was discussing this with you, this is one of my favorite questions in Houston. I just wonder if you guys can maybe speak a little bit about, your culture and how it really fueled what you do now. Like for myself, from a family of doctors, my mother's a doctor, my father's a doctor, my brother's a doctor, and I was like, I want to be a publicist. I want to work with luxury brands and do marketing, and and now everyone says, oh, but you're the smart one, right? At the end of the day. But my mother always said to me, you need to be your own boss. Always be your own boss. That's what you want to do. You always want to work for yourself. And I never thought of like going out and like having this 9-to-5 culture. Like I just never thought I could do it. So I'm wondering for you guys, she was my inspiration and growing up with her, as such a strong woman in my life. And I'm just wondering, like, fueled by our culture, I think women are very, very strong in our culture, in the home, the family. So being a South Asian woman, being a Punjabi woman, fighter, tell me, how did that, kind of shape where you are as an entrepreneur and your inspiration?
Well, I have to give my father a lot of credit for really nurturing my entrepreneurial spirit, because he's the one that gave me that first push into becoming an entrepreneur. And I can't thank him enough, because I can't imagine me in a corporate environment. I'd probably get fired because I have a big mouth. But I think, as far as being South Asian, I mean, it has its challenges on one side, because, I think what all of us are doing, as I believe we're trailblazers and pioneers in our respective industries, and there's a lot of taboo with that, of, within the communities of not doing the traditional route of being a doctor, engineer, computer scientist, whatnot. But at the same token, once I embraced my culture and I actually used being South Asian as my point of difference with my product line and with my business, and the fact that I got to travel around the world and I was going to bring you all these great secrets, and especially heavy on the Indian secrets, it's amazing how much support I got. And had I not had the South Asian background to use, and had I not celebrated it, I would never have been able to launch in Sephora and been a #1 selling mascara. I mean, because it was my story.
Right.
And I really firmly believe that you've got to be authentic, and authenticity sells, and people crave it. And, I'm really proud to be South Asian, and I'm even more thankful and grateful for the amount of support I've gotten from the South Asian community. It's amazing. I mean, they are my biggest supporters across the world. The emails I get are phenomenal. So for me, it's just been a blessing.
I mean, I think that both Shalini and all of us actually have built businesses around our culture. So I think we can only be truly grateful for being South Asian and being Indian. I mean, my mother was a huge supporter of me too. She always told me from a really young age that, I don't know the translation in English, but basically there's no drug like earning your own money. I think that is the translation. But she said in Punjabi, so it sounds really, really cute. It's so funny, like we were talking about this earlier, I grew up really ashamed of my culture. I grew up feeling like I wanted to be white, like I wanted to shed my skin. I called myself Anjula for the longest time. I didn't call myself Anjula because I was ashamed of my name. I just wanted to totally and utterly sell out. And I don't know why at some point about 19 years old, I kind of decided I was going to embrace who I was. I never thought years and years later I would be making Lady Gaga embrace who I am. I'd be making Britney embrace who I am. I'd be making 50% embrace who I am. Like, I never in my wildest dreams thought that I would be doing that. And, I can only thank my experiences growing up for that passion that I have to do that. And it's so funny because like when I meet people all the time, whether it's artists or whether it's celebrities or it's business people, they go, "You're so passionate about what you're doing." And I was like, well, try growing up in my shoes, you would be too. Like, I spent my whole life hating who I was, and now I've got the opportunity to feel good about it. And I'm gonna just sort of milk that for everything. And you know, now this journey I'm going through with bringing Priyanka here and some other artists that I'm working on, and I worked on the early stages of Jay Sean, like that feeling that you get when you kind of see your people in the forefront, and it inspires so many young kids that are South Asian to go into music or go into TV or go into film, and you know, it's such an amazing feeling. So for me, you know, forget everything, just that feeling that I can own and I can take with me for the rest of my life is just such a gift and a blessing.
Yes, maybe I should. I agree. I mean, I think for all of us, our culture is what fueled our fire and our passion. And I think the common thing that we are hearing, that I'm hearing from talking to you two, and as well as many other guests, is passion always comes, I feel, or it can come, not always, it can come from a lack of something. And I think when I was growing up, I always wanted that role model that I could be like everyone in my community around me growing up in Silicon Valley was headed towards engineering or headed towards medicine. And there was nothing I could latch onto around me or somebody I could look up to that would inspire me in fields that I liked, hence an inspirational platform. Because if there's that lack of something, that creates a desire and passion, just like your story growing up. You felt like you didn't like your culture, and so now you wanted to embrace it. So the South Asian, being South Asian really helped me in that sense because it fueled my desire for a platform, something I didn't have growing up. I also think that it has its challenges as well. Not to say it doesn't. Being in our community, I'm not going to pretend like it's all rosy. It's all a rosy picture. Being a South Asian woman, you're going to be faced, especially in the media world. You have to work really hard at people taking you seriously. I mean, that's just the reality of what I felt. You know, you guys may have had different experiences, especially in media. People think, oh, you just want to be on TV, you're a host, or you're just trying to do this, and they don't understand, no, this is a business for me, this is a passion, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm not just trying to be on TV, I have a mission. And so you really have to work through that and just be strong and present yourself as a professional and keep at it and not let that get in the way. And it's probably not just a South Asian problem. I think that that's everywhere. But it's not a problem that can't be overcome easily, just with the right mindset and dedication and being determined. I don't know why I can't talk to you. I was at an event last night. And I talk every day on TV. Today I can't talk.
So being a South Asian woman and being in banking, and like I said at the beginning, you know, I was supposed to be a doctor, but you know, I chose this route instead. Wells Fargo realizes that the South Asian community is growing, and it's growing very, very rapidly. And you know, I'll just speak to Wells Fargo's commitment. Wells Fargo recently committed to lending $55 billion by 2020 to women business owners in particular, which just says a lot. Very, very exciting, which empowers me even more to want to stay with this company and want to grow. They gave me opportunities that I never ever thought I would have. I think when I think about all of Los Angeles, I'm the only South Asian district manager in LA. So I was given that opportunity, and I know that Wells Fargo is definitely investing back into the South Asian community. So.
Fantastic.
It's really great.
Yeah, fantastic.
That's amazing.
Well, I just want to thank you, ladies, but I wanted to open the floor to any questions that any of you might possibly have. Of course.
So, you know, as a business owner,
It's the one guy in the
listen, you learn from everyone.
No, equal opportunities.
So I've learned so much just from listening to you all. I'm a small business owner myself, and you know, so much great advice. I'm curious, you know, as I was sitting here watching you all speak and kind of, you know, quote amazing poetic things, did you learn from each other? What did you learn from each other? And please attribute what you learned.
I have to say, Shalini was the first kind of South Asian woman I met in business, and you know, I work, and it's crazy because I run a business which is so South Asian orientated, but I actually work with very few South Asians. Most of my network and everyone I know is non-South Asian, but when I met Shalini probably about 5-6 years ago, you know, we had that we met for brunch and checked each other out, and actually a mutual contact had put us in touch with it. It was the guy who was head of Epic Records at the time, was like, you have to meet this Desi girl. And I was like, yeah, whatever. But no, Shalini, and I'm going to say this and be quite teary because she has brought me through some of the toughest moments in my life. Since I started my business, and she has taught me more than anything, watching her lose her business to a complete, use the word arsehole investor, but to see how she came out of it the other end. And she always says to me jokingly, she'll go, Ange, I got the cheapest MBA of my life, like, and I tell everyone that, I'm like, my friend got the cheapest MBA of her life. Like, she taught me more than anything human spirit, and taught me that, I think the biggest thing as entrepreneurs is you fear failure. And it's such a fear. You fear fear as well. You taught me not to fear fear. She taught me that you can keep going and that another door will open. I mean, it sounds so cliche, but it's true. You taught me all of those things. So yeah, I've learned a ton of stuff from Shalini, and I'm telling you, this new brand that she's doing, I can't say too much because I signed an NDA.
What? You don't trust her? No, she's just kidding. She has a lifetime NDA with me. Okay?
But I'm telling you, this brand is gonna kick ass, and all the things that she's done up till now are gonna be just like a dot on this. Like, I'm so. What the hell is that? Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be amazing. Anyway, keep talking. So there you go.
Well, first of all, thank you. That was amazing, and I consider my father always teases me because he always says, I can't believe it took you 38 years to finally have some Indian girlfriends. And it was like, it didn't take me 38 years. I just did have a lot in common with, a lot of women. And when I met Ange, I was literally in the car with this guy from Epic Records, and he's like, here, talk to this Desi. And I'm like, Desi, okay. And we met, and it was so refreshing to meet almost like my soul sister and kindred spirit in the fact that, here's another girl. We had the same experience growing up, and we're trying to take on the world by ourselves. And, as far as support systems, it's so unbelievably important that you surround yourself with really strong, smart people that you can bounce ideas off. I mean, literally, I was approached today with $10 million from a VC fund for just one part of my company that I'm building. And I checked the guy with Ange, when we were here. I'm like, hey, do you know this guy, and what's his story? And they're gonna raise $10 million for this, and what do you think? And you need to have those really strong relationships, but you also need to be able to have people that you can confide in and know that it's a safe place. I mean, I have a group of women that we have lunch or dinner once a quarter, where that's our safe forum, and we can show our insecurities, we can bounce off whatever questions we have, and we know it's not going to leave that table. And that's so important that you put those tools not only in your professional life, but it also helps with your personal life because it creates balance, because you've got that environment to do so. And same with Sarika. I mean, Sarika and I have talked so much, and Ange was absolutely there for me, making me parantas when I was like, Ange, I'm gonna lose my company. So, I mean, it's so important to have that. And to me, that's half the fun of building a business, is having that community around you.
Can I just jump in one thing? I want to give you all some advice. It's something that we do, and I'm sure we'll be doing opportunities. And you know what you need to do? You need to meet regularly, as Charles said, but you all need to do each other's PR. So there's nothing better. I had a friend in New York, Julie, I love her. And what we used to do, we used to have these dinners and everything, and then she was madly connected, and I'm pretty well connected too. So I would go out and do her PR, and she would go out and do my PR. And then you'd be at random conferences or whatever, and people would be like, oh my God, I've heard all about you, and everyone will want to talk to you because somebody's gone out and done your PR. And I think Shalini, we've been doing that for 6 years for each other. If you ever meet anyone that knows Shalini, that knows me, they'll be like, oh my God, Ange, I've heard so many amazing things about you, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. But pick your friends and have them do that for you, and you do that for them. That's amazing. The doors it will open for you will be incredible. Oh, sorry.
Well, I have to say tonight I learned from everyone here something, even Reema. I've known Reema for a very, very. Even
Even that one is bad.
That came out wrong. I cannot speak today. She's a moderator, and what I learned from Reema is that she's out there on a mission to empower women. She has been for a very, very, very long time, since I first met her, and now she's traveling the country on a road show. So she stands for a lot of persistence in giving back and making other people better, and that's something that's very important. Shalini, I had the pleasure of knowing for 4 years because she's been on every season of Andaaz. And every time I talk to her, I learn something new. All the interviews have been very, very different. In fact, this last one was more on her spiritual side. And what I love about her is how she bounced back from a very, very tragic time. And now she comes with a lot of wisdom. I mean, she was just telling me the other day about throwing away expired milk that she learned. Like, some of your experiences are like expired milk. So you should just throw them out, because that's what you would do to milk. We quote that around our office all the time. We're like, Shalini, expired milk. And it's just like, expired milk. So you've given us quotes in our workplace,
That's great.
Absolutely. And then Anjula, we just had her as a guest on Andaaz for the first time. And I have to tell you, when I met her, her interview was so inspirational, and she's so humble and into giving back, that we put her on TV, and I have a mini focus group that's from around the country that'll tell me, I liked this segment, I didn't like this segment. They're all different age groups, all different backgrounds, across the board. They were like, wow, that Anjula is so inspiring. Look what she did. She had this vision, and now she's like Lady Gaga, Priyanka Chopra. So you're setting an example, both of you. We get the same thing on all of your segments as well. You both are setting an example to other young women who want to be just like you. I mean, that's just amazing, And I've learned a lot from you today. I should have opened up a credit line.
I'd like to dip into that $5 billion.
I love what Wells Fargo is doing. When a big corporation is giving back like that to a niche like the South Asian community, and understanding the importance of that and helping them grow is just phenomenal. Open up a credit line, network, get to know your personal banker. This is all very sound advice for an entrepreneur. Really think that.
We just had a really good idea. I'm actually deadly serious. We should set up an advisory board for you if you're reaching South Asian women, and we should help you find entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
That's what we should do, right, Sean?
I agree.
Any more questions?
I have a question. So I guess I'm 23. I haven't thought about, do I want to start a business? What do I want to do? So I just graduated college 2 years ago. I was like, okay, let me go into strategy consulting because I have no idea what I want to do with my life. And so where, I guess, did you guys find in your careers that you made that decision? Like, I'm going to leave sort of the corporate world or, graduate college and then go do my own thing. Like, where was that, I guess, point where you decided, like, oh, I can leave it all. I can be okay with failure and then just go.
I don't know that you're ever okay with failure. But I was in the corporate world. I did really, really well in the corporate world. I made a lot of money very early on in my career. And I had a fight with my boss, and I just thought he was just a mean person. And I was like second from the CEO, and he was my in-between. And I just one day just said, you know what, screw this. Like, I'm too good for this. And I had this view, and I've just been in this book called Luminaries that is talking about what kind of made you take that pivot from a corporate life to a startup. And, I say this to a lot of entrepreneurs, like, if you can build something without a huge infrastructure around you, then you're probably a great entrepreneur. And I'll give you an example of that. So I worked for a really big organization. It's a NASDAQ listed company. But what I always did was build up the startups within that company. So every time they needed a new division, I was the person they called and said, Ange, we need to develop this new division. Can you go and set it up? And I would always do it. And, we'd never have a track record in that division, but I would build it up, and before we knew it, my revenue was through the roof, and we were doing really great stuff. So when I finally quit, and it was really a whimsical decision, like I had a fight with this guy, and I thought he was an arse, and I was just like, you know what, I don't need this. Like, I'm better than this. So I left and I broke out in hives. I was freaking out because I left a big salary. But I sat there and I had this moment of clarity, and I was like, I have built different businesses for this company in all my tenure there.
if I can do it for them, I can do it for myself. So I would say if you can get the opportunity to test it out within a corporate so you have a big safety net, then that's always a good thing to do. But you know, the one thing that we have, which most of us have, are like great Desi parents that we can always go home to if things fail.
I want to add to that. Talking to so many entrepreneurs, that's the one common theme that I found, because I talk to them all day and all night on the show, is that if you feel like you're in a position in your workplace where you're like, why am I doing it for them and I'm not doing it for me? And I could be doing this for myself. Your mindset is of an entrepreneur. Not everyone has that mindset, which means that you're going to constantly have that itch and that bug. I want to go out and do it on my own. I want to go out and do it on my own. So there's no good time. You might as well just go take the risk and just go do it. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? You go back to work.
Right.
You know.
I agree. I mean, I think that pain is a great motivator and passion's a great motivator, and I'll never forget sitting on the set of The Bold and Beautiful for 12, 13, 15-hour days, and I wasn't even allowed to cough. And I had because it would mess up the filming, and I had no idea if it was like raining outside, if it was sunny. I was on the sound stage, and it was just crappy people like around me, and I just remember sitting there going, this sucks. Like, I can't imagine the rest of my life sitting in this, sound stage, and what's the worst that can happen? It can't get any worse than, even though everyone thought it was so glamorous, it was like not at all. So I was like, there's nothing worse that can come from this, and if I don't try, I don't know. And if you have an itch to try something, you have to try, because you have to, because there's nothing worse than looking back and regretting that you didn't try something.
Just do it.
It has to come from inside truly. If you're iffy, let me just do it for the heck of it, then it won't work out as well unless you're like really itching inside to do
But
something
you don't know.
established.
I did clothing, I did jewelry. I know that I was super, I knew that beauty and glamour and all that was like inside of me, but I still had to go through those things to realize that I didn't want to do them sure.
Right. That's what I meant. You have to go through a little process.
Right.
You have to think it through. You have to handle success and failure combinations.
Right.
You have to go through the bosses and what you really are. I think it takes a little time to understand what you are.
And it's fun. It's a journey, right?
Yes.
Everything's a journey. You're not in a rush to get to the finish
Yes.
line. And
Yes.
half the fun is the journey, so you've got to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been pretty fortunate. I'm a child psychiatrist, and I own a practice, and it's been very rewarding, and I love what I do, and I'm very fortunate to be doing what I do. Several years ago, I always had this itch or passion for medical journalism, and it started off as a hobby. And all I wanted was a little radio thing on some radio show to answer a few questions for parents or whatever. That's all I wanted to do. And then I started working with this publicity guy who got me a number of interviews, and then one day I showed up on CNN. And the producers were like, we really like how you don't talk in sound bites and you just talk like you're having a conversation. So they kept calling me on CNN, and then they called me on CNN International, and then I got called on Fox News, and then it just kept exploding, and it became more than a hobby. It became like a part-time job on top of my full-time job, and it was, my career was better than I would have ever imagined. I felt fulfilled, and it was amazing, but my personal life was like down the tubes. I had no personal life. I had no free time. The weekends, I was so tired. I didn't want to go out anywhere. I didn't want to do anything, and I knew if I was ever going to achieve my personal goals, I had to cut back on something. So I cut back on what I loved, which was the journalism stuff, because something had to go. And the patient care was paying my bills. So I cut down on the media work, and I miss it, and I love it. And I think, I know how it works, so I can get back into it. But I wanted to hear your opinions on how you found balance in life.
Let me know. I think we all will have something to say about that.
I think, kudos to you. It sounds amazing.
That's awesome.
And I think you should figure out a way that CNN and Fox pays you as a contributor, so that you can cut down the practice a little bit. And, I realized I used to literally sleep with when Blackberries were I don't know why you still have
Yeah.
one, by the way, but like Blackberry, so I would sleep with it, and then I would wake up in the middle of the night, and I would look at it, and I'd be like, oh my god, my shipment to QVC UK, because of the time difference, they're not going to take it because it's missing one tiny little label, and I would just lay there awake and just stressing out. And then I realized that if I was going to have a good marriage and I was going to have a decent life, that I needed to set some strong boundaries. And you know, I have the most unbelievably amazing husband who's sitting back in the room, who has, you know, his own career. And you know, we made a pact, like Sunday nights are our night. Like, he's in entertainment. I mean, we're just crazy. We go 100 miles an hour, but we know no matter what, that Sunday evening, that's our time. And we're not going to make plans with anybody else. We're not going to sit on our phones for 4 hours on the couch. We're not going to sit on our computers. We're just going to have a nice dinner. We're going to do our thing. And that, just knowing that in a crazy week, you know, there's a little bit of balance right there. You know, and I'm a big, firm believer, especially after what I went through. I mean, I don't think we take the time to celebrate ourselves enough. I think we're so busy looking outward. Even if you just take 10 minutes a day to just stop, put your phone down, do like a breathing exercise, take a bath, I mean, do something nice for yourself, that just adds a little bit of balance. But I mean, I think if you're passionate about what you're doing on TV, I think you should get an agent or a manager, and you should build that career out for yourself. Absolutely, and you should become, you know, after union and have them pay you. I mean, I do Dr. Oz all the time, you know, because I'm union now, they have to pay me, they have to, you know, and I can make a career out of just doing those appearances, you know. And Brooke and I actually were very strategic at one point where we were hitting up all the PR companies, and if I featured their products on the back end, I mean, some of the segments, I was making 10 grand a segment, you know, just by being able to talk about certain products, but not like in a selling sort of way. So there's all kinds of strategic ways that you can look at what you're doing right now, and you can actually really monetize that, especially with blogs. And you know, you obviously have a lot of advice, which is content, and content is king right now. So you could create an entire destination based on the advice that you give. And I'm a firm believer, if that's what makes you happy, then you have to do that. And there's ways that you can balance your personal life just by setting boundaries.
I have a couple of questions for you. The first one is, I mean, you went earlier when you were talking about it, you said, I had to give up the thing that I loved. So do you love that more than your daytime job, even though that daytime job pays the bills?
No, I love my daytime. That was the problem. I had too many loves.
Right. Well, you can't have affairs everywhere.
How much do you sleep? Is sleep a very top priority? I don't sleep.
I also think that balance means something different to everybody. Like, people ask me this question about balance all the time, and I don't know what balance means to Charlotte might be very different to what balance means for me. Like, I love going out and networking. It's part of my soul and my spirit. So for me, I don't always see that as a work thing. I really enjoy it. So, and meeting new people. So I think that, like, you know, balance just means something to you. But I totally agree with Charlotte. You know, if at some point I'm going to offer Charlotte, she's been amazing at turning around these different things that she did into businesses. So, for example, going to what she did, she wrote a book called Passport to Beauty. My view is, if you're on a TV segment and they don't want to pay you, if tomorrow you decide to write a book on child psychology, that gives you an opportunity to promote your book. If you tomorrow decide to create a blog or a TV show like Sarika's done, that gives you an opportunity to promote that other product. I'd be very careful to give up really big promotional opportunities like that, because they can pay you, maybe not in the obvious way, in other ways. And I'll just give you a very quick example. You know, my mentor and my business partner, Jimmy Iving, everyone in the music business were going crazy about music videos, and they were like, oh my God, you know, how are we going to get people to pay for music videos? And I was like, people aren't going to pay for music videos, and you know what? You shouldn't expect them to pay for music videos, but if you're smart, you'll figure a way out to monetize it. Jimmy created a headphone brand called Beats Electronics, which is now 80% of the headphone market. He hardly did any marketing when he was building that brand, he just put it in music videos. So think about how you can monetize these opportunities that you have, because let me tell you, people are banging down the doors for those opportunities.
Yeah, that's your platform. Yeah. Don't give that up. I mean, because that's a long-term payoff for you. I mean, I know you're like in a short-term mindset of like, okay, I've got too much going on. How do I bring some balance to my life? But you know, if if you're gonna look at it from a strategic standpoint, and if you are able to take some time and put a roadmap in place of like, this is where I wanna be in 3 months, this is where I wanna be 6 months, a year, and these are all the things I can do as far as brand extensions off these segments I'm doing, that's gonna generate not only an amazing income, but that's gonna give you an amazing career as well, on top of what you're already doing.
And then to give you another example, someone like Jennifer Lopez, for example. Jennifer Lopez went off the radar for years, but she was still selling perfume, she was still selling clothes, she like built multiple brands, but was still selling even when she wasn't literally making hits every day. Tomorrow, God forbid, you can't be in your office every day because you have a child or whatever, you decide you don't want to work anymore, and you've got a brand that's still going on behind you because of all that TV you did and you sold books or you sold, I don't know, DVDs or whatever it is you decide to sell off the back of it. That's something that will actually give you a break. So
I get a check every month in the mail for a book I wrote 6 years ago. There you go. You know, I mean,
she's the pro at this. I mean, I learned it from her, really.
No, I mean, you've got to figure out different revenue streams that are passive, right? So I'm not doing anything for my book, but every month I go to the mailbox and I have a really nice check in the mail.
And I'm trying to get it and I can't because it's sold out everywhere. And I'm like, I want to bring it.
Can't she just give you one?
No, I don't have it.
I'm first in line for that.
No, on the topic of balance, because I struggle with the same thing. And then I spoke to a lot of people about this. I'm like, how can you build a business and have balance in your life? It's very, very hard in the beginning. But like Shalini and Anjula just said, don't underestimate the power of media one, and don't let that go, because it's going to come to your benefit in a big way down the road. And if you have a vision, being a little tired for a little while, what's the big deal? Eventually, that will lighten up. As you grow, and as you grow even more, your personal life will grow. Your business will come under control. You won't need to invest as many hours. It's like a newborn child. In the beginning days, when the child is waking you up every night and you don't sleep and you have circles under your eyes, they grow up, and so does your company. So don't get scared of those beginning days. And you're gonna have to put in your time. And balance, I mean, it's fun. I mean, you're just tired, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you know, Sandy and I are moms. You know, we have children, and I'll tell you, it's all about schedule.
Yeah.
What is my schedule? What is important to me? What is my priority?
It's time management.
Time management.
I learned that from a president that I hired for one of my companies. And she used to literally come in with a spreadsheet and a critical path, and it was literally by hour timed out of like when she was going to spend time with her kids and when she was, I mean, and she kept saying, Shal, you will get through this if you're really good at time management.
Yeah.
And I just want to add, I don't own my own business, but I treat my business like I own it, and that's why I work very hard in what I do. I would say a couple years ago I made a choice. I made a choice to decide whether I wanted to continue working 14, 18, 20 hours a day. I do sleep with my BlackBerry still. But it's a choice that you have to make. And my father passed away last year, and I decided that I had to make that choice because I wasn't going to miss out on my kids, and I wasn't going to miss out on my work. In about a year and a half ago when he passed away, I said, you know what, at this point I'm going to make that roadmap. I'm going to build out my timeline. I'm going to get home at 5 o'clock. I'm going to spend time with my children. And it really comes down to believing in yourself. And no offense to the men here, but women, we can accomplish anything. And I swear we're super women. And it really comes down to that. And don't underestimate the power of yourself, because when you believe in yourself and you love what you do, you'll find a way to make it happen.
So true. That's such a good point.
Yes.
I know everybody wants to leave or it's getting late, but do you guys, I would love to know who your role models are outside of somebody in your family or like a public figure that perhaps we can all see where some of your strength came from during the periods when you were possibly contemplating, not doing what you were doing, or, what gave you additional resources as you were trailblazing in your industries?
Me? I don't know. I just really believed in myself, and I'm like, if I'm gonna fail, then it's gonna happen, but I'll get right back up. I've always wanted to have this lifestyle brand. At the end of the day, I've always wanted to be the Martha Stewart of the exotic, and I have literally said that since I was 19 years old. So, you know, I really study the way that she's built out her lifestyle brand. I look at I look at what I want to do. Like, I want a lifestyle brand. And I know you have she's an amazingly gorgeous jewelry line. You know, so I would be looking at, like, people that are in your space, and I consider that competitive landscape, and just see, like, what was their path and how did they build their brand. And then I look at really inspirational women like Barbara Corcoran. I mean, she's amazing. Like, I love to just see, like, what was their story, what was their journey, and just by even going on YouTube and finding, like, you know, people that are in your space that might have given us a talk. Like, I mean, that Steve Jobs Stanford speech was unbelievable. I mean, just watching those, you can learn so much, and you can get so unbelievably inspired that you're like, yeah, I can do anything, no matter what.
Or watch Andaaz.
Or watch Andaaz, and Sarika will tell you how fabulous your path and journey is.
I think for me, you know, the one person that inspires me, but it's Jennifer Lopez. I think she has mediocre. I am obsessed with her, and it's a long-standing joke. But I'll tell you what I'm obsessed with her. She actually has very mediocre talent, right? But her talent is her talent. Like, her talent is the fact that she can take mediocre talent and make a shitload of money out of it. Like, you know, she's an average actress, but she has hit movies. She's an average singer. In fact, she's not a great singer. Jimmy always says she can just about sing. I can't say that. We all know she's not the most amazing singer in the world. But the thing is, like, she keeps it going. And then on top of that, like I said to you, even when she's not in the public eye, she's been able to make money and extend her brand and do all the things that Charlotte's sort of been in the back of my mind telling me to do for, you know, years. So she's somebody that really inspires me.
Well, I've been lucky enough to talk to inspiring people all the time. So the guests on my show inspire me more than anyone else. I'll be down in the dumps, like, I can't believe I'm doing this, and I'm an entrepreneur. And the CEO of Virgin Galactic will talk about his story, or even some of our artists like Naeem Khan and how they struggled in the beginning and how they had their vision, or I'm all of a sudden getting wisdom from Sri Ravi Shankar. So you know what's interesting is when you're on this journey, the right information will always come to you right when you need it. I call it little miracles that keep you going. That's your sign that you have to keep going. Like, all of a sudden, I'm like, I cannot believe this, I cannot do this anymore. And I'm talking to a guest and they're addressing the question in my head as I'm speaking. So just look out for those signs, not to bring out the spiritual side. But, and then also grab onto the mentors. I have two in my business that are my go-to mentors. They're VCs in Silicon Valley, serial entrepreneurs, and I call them up almost every day. It's very important, you know. I guess I can say who they are. Naveen Jain and Raj Singh. These guys have, like, just been guiding me, like, so find yours, you know. You have a question? Yeah.
I have a question, but I just want to say I'm so happy to be here tonight.
Oh.
You know, you talked about little miracles, and, like, this is what I needed. I don't know. I just rebranded my boutique, and just listening to you powerful women today, like, just gives me that little, okay, you can do it, Megan, keep going, you know? So I just want to say, like, I know some of you personally, but you guys are amazing. Keep doing what you're doing, and like I said, it's teaching us girls to keep going and to do the best we can in our South Asian community. And that's the hardest to be in, and it's great, and then it also has its challenges. But, you know, listening to you guys just, like I said, it really helps.
Well, thank you, ladies. Thank you, Sandy, Sarika, Anjula, Shalini. I mean, seriously, I think this is not just because I'm on it. That has nothing to do with the fact that this is fabulous, the best panel ever. But seriously, just on a final note, I think it's so important to surround yourself with positive people. Always surround yourself with good people. I feel like I know a gajillion people, but the people that I want to know and who I keep as friends are people who are just good, and I think that's just kind of huge. And I don't know.
Can I say one last?
Yes.
Sorry, I know everyone wants to leave, but I just want to leave you with this. I've been going to all these women conferences. I was just at Forbes Summit last week, and it's the Year of the Woman and all of that kind of thing. I just want to say one thing to all the South Asian and non-South Asian women here. The thing that hasn't come up on this panel today, which I'm surprised because I'd like practiced my answer. So I'm gonna say
that's why I can say it now.
Anyway, it's gonna come out. The one thing that people always ask me is like, how do you feel about being a woman entrepreneur? You know, oh my God, it's such a struggle raising money. Oh my God, it's this. Oh my God, it's that. And it's like this whole like drama around being a woman. I'm so glad I'm a woman. Like my husband always says to me, when you walk into a networking event, you're so lucky because everyone wants to talk to you because you're a woman and it's predominantly men. So like every time you're in that I'm a woman situation, please don't listen to all the jargon out there that it's really hard being a woman. It's not hard being a woman. It's actually a massive advantage being a woman. And this whole thing about like, you know, you've probably been reading in the press about how, you know, white men from Silicon Valley that are Harvard, that are this, that are that, want to invest in people that look like them. We are all the antithesis of that theory, which is, you know, men want to invest in women, don't want to invest in women that are of color, that are immigrants, that, you know, don't come from Ivy League. We've all raised money against that, and I never went into any of those situations thinking, oh my God, I'm a woman, oh my God, I'm South Asian, oh my God, I've got an English accent, oh my God, I don't have an Ivy League. It never even crossed my mind.
Yeah, I never did until you just said that right now. I'm like, what?
Well, there you go. And everybody's talking about it.
You know,
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
just worry about yourself, and who cares about all the naysayers? Just don't even listen to them. Just
absolutely. So just ignore all of that. No, even like Marissa
Even though Nikki
Mayer,
just brought it all up.
everybody's going, okay, I'm going to shut up now.
One of my greatest mentors says to me, if people don't tell you your idea is crazy, something's wrong. You know, because when you first start off, people are going to tell you, no, you can't do it, your idea is crazy. That means you're on the right track.
So, and with that, please join us in the back. Have a bite. Thank you all so much. Thank you.